God's covenant with her people. And immediately after God's people say, sure, we're in, we pick up in the story today where immediately they turn aside, they turn away. Their faithfulness is limited. And I'd like to invite us to consider that it's probably pretty understandable. Because Moses is far away, God seems quite distant, and in times like that, we probably experience that ourselves. It might make sense to try to grasp towards something that you can touch and see, and maybe even control. So the people build this golden calf, which probably resembles some gods they saw back in Egypt or in their neighbors. A place back in Egypt where at least they had food and a roof over their head. And I think we as a community know what that's like. I mean, for years we worshiped in a leaky roofed, ceiling tile collapsing, wheelchair inaccessible, old but beautiful church that was familiar and it was ours, even though it was limiting. And now we're on the road while we build a new church, but I've got to imagine that sometimes we miss that familiar space, or at least the familiar feeling, the comfort and the control of the old, rather than the freedom of the new. Because that's the challenge of freedom. It's not something that we can control. And that's the great thing about idols. We can. Or so we think. And anything can be an idol. Anything that we turn to obsessively for some sort of comfort or control. It can be food, it can be money, it can be hobbies, it can be our children, it can be travel. Anything that we think we can get the upper hand on. Because trusting an invisible, inscrutable God who often seems distant, is scary. It takes a real act of faith. It's a real thing, right? To have faith in a God like that. So I'm thankful for people like Moses who tell God to take a beat, take a breath, and who look out for us, who appeal to our better natures. I'm thankful that God doesn't let our lack of trust or faithfulness ultimately get in the way of being in relationship with Him. Thank God that her promises are bigger than our doubt or even her anger. Then there's a parable for Jesus. The kingdom of heaven is like a wedding banquet, he says. And before we get to the thorn in the sock of this story, I want to share a story of my own. A few years ago, friends of mine got married in Chicago. It was a quick wedding, just the two of them at the courthouse with two friends. It's a gay shotgun wedding. I'm not sure what their hurry was, but they were in a hurry. And good for them. And but then several months later, they invited the wider circle of friends to a whole weekend of eating and drinking and karaoke. And I decided to go all out for the occasion. Because I want to look good, but also because I cared about them. So I bought a very slick gray blazer, a sleek black tie, and a crisp white shirt. It was looking good. But more importantly, I wanted to honor the occasion and to honor our friendship and our relationship together. It was a celebration. If I showed up in casual wear, yes, we'd still be friends, but I wouldn't be honoring the moment of our friendship. The dress mattered. And in the parable today, the dress mattered. Not because the man couldn't afford a tux or to rent a tux, or the man was so humble that he didn't care about fancy ties. The man comes to the party casually, failing to honor the spirit of the occasion. And of course, that's the same thing that was happening with everyone else who refused to go, even though they were invited. There was a party happening, but no one wanted to party. And this, of course, I think happens to us all the time. It's the Facebook invite that you don't respond to the last minute, and you respond based on how you feel in the moment versus how you feel about the person. It's maybe more fundamentally what happens when our friends want to have drinks with us to celebrate their new job or their new relationship or this new event in their life. And we have to stifle a little bit of our jealousy or our insecurity. I mean, friends, I'm still single at almost 40. I have to work on my resistance to joy all the time when my friends are in relationships. and at the end of the day, I mean, it is like laugh. It's a minor example, but at the end of the day, for me, if I'm honoring the occasion in the relationship, I don't just want to be happy for them, right? I want to be happy with them. And so do we. I keep imagining, I think about us as a community, I keep imagining what that first Sunday in our new space will be like and how joyous that will be. But what if the celebration is today? What if the feast is now? What if the moment is here among us where God is present? And so what kind of clothes are we going to wear? Or how are we going to respond? Or will we be able to let go of those things that we are gripping so tightly to try to give us a sense of control and security that will loosen them just enough to be able to let our ears tickle with the sound of the party, and to open our hands to the joy of the occasion that's in front of us. That's what I hope for us. Some eyes that see, some ears that hear, and some hands that hold life a bit more loosely, so that we can celebrate God's presence among us. God's free presence, God's scary presence, but God's presence nonetheless. Amen.